Hey guys, welcome back to the show. It's Mark, aka the Movie Buffer. You know, it's been a lot of perilous journeys that we've been on with our buddy Mr. Neil Breen. From encountering mystical magical tigers in the desert to going head to toe with an AI enhanced clone of ourselves. There's been a lot of freaky and rather crazy shit that this man has gone through in his time. Now, granted, the quality of Neil's movies are definitely questionable, to say the very least. That being said, you gotta still admire the man's tenaciousness and his persistence and just his overall passion for filmmaking. I mean, laugh at this man all you want, but you definitely gotta admit, he is definitely passionate about what he does, and he does not give up. And that is why today we're going to be revisiting Mr. Neil Breen's roots by taking a look at his first film, Double Down, which came out in 2005. Now, I know we've kind of gone all over the place in terms of the chronological order of Neil Breen movies that we've reviewed on this channel, but I figured it was about time we went back and we revisited his early days, his film debut, the movie that put this man on the spotlight and made him into a film icon. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Double Down. But first, before we dive into the video, I'm going to remind you guys once again to check out that Patreon. There's going to be a link posted in the description box. There you'll find all kinds of cool stuff, including exclusive content. It's a great way to support the channel, guys. $5. $5 a month. If not, no big deal. Not going to fuss about it at all. Continue to watch me over here on YouTube, and that and your overall support means the world to me. I want to thank you guys very much for all that, and make sure to leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of this video, as well as any movies you may want me to review in the future. Don't forget to like, subscribe so you don't miss out on any more fun here on the Movie Buffer. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on into Double Down. The movie begins pretty much like every other Neil Breen movie. A stock footage intro, which is very obvious, by the way, as the camera sweeps through the clouds down into the mountain horizon. And of course the font is equally as bland and boring. Oh, and don't forget about the very generic and bland pre-recorded music, which I'm sure Neil probably purchased from the same stock library where he got all of his footage from. Uh-oh, did I accidentally put on pass-through by mistake? No, actually, this is the right movie. Like most of his movies, this film largely is shot and takes place in the middle of the desert, probably because Neil does not have any actual film permits to shoot in a major city. After a few dozen establishing shots, the camera pans down, revealing the man himself. What is he doing? Just chilling between some boulders in the middle of the Las Vegas desert? Well, I'll let him explain.
I was the first in my class in college in computer science. I joined the military and became a fighter pilot, and won many medals for distinguished service.
Okay, never mind. I guess he can't be bothered to do anything except brag about how awesome he is at everything.
I'm now a covert agent, a mercenary, for any nation that wants to control another. I met the love of my life when I was 7, and stayed with her forever. We loved each other, and we're getting married. I joined my country's secret strategic support branch of the Defense Intelligence Agency to fight terrorism around the world and became the best agent they ever had. I developed a way to control any computer or satellite the government had. The fact that I became so individually, electronically powerful scared my government as well as others. It was that power that caused them to assassinate my fiancée and break my heart forever.
Alright, so a few questions. First, if the US government was so concerned about you being a threat to our nation's security, why go after your fiance? Why not just take out you? Why not just eliminate the source? Secondly, you're supposedly this brilliant covert agent that is almost acting like a freelance terrorist in a way by accepting these top secret missions from other countries who want you to basically assassinate certain parties or certain government branches for foreign dictators. So wouldn't that technically make you a bad guy?
I controlled access to the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. I control access to anything and everything, even from my little simple, brilliant setup.
What type of simple, brilliant setup is he talking about, you may ask? Well, for one, we got lots of broken laptops, and also a couple of satellite dishes I picked up from a garage sale. Also, I guess this is supposed to signify somebody getting buried alive in the desert. Either that, or there's a fucking zombie out here. So Neil Breen is supposed to be some type of covert government agent who acts more like a freelancer slash bounty hunter, I guess, who basically just takes whatever job from whatever country is willing to pay him. And he lives pretty much off the grid, living out of his car, and living off of nothing but tuna. Lots and lots of tuna. And that is actually a plot point that is brought up in this film. So after driving out to another part of the desert, because Neil Breen stops his car at yet another rock formation, and we see him talking on one of like 6 flip phones that he has, and it keeps cutting back to stock footage of what I'm guessing is supposed to be the military or the government branch that he's talking to. I don't really know. I don't know if it's the US military, the CIA, or if it's a foreign military or a foreign government agency. Listen, you try watching this movie or any Neil Breen movie and then try to coherently explain the plot out loud to another person. It's damn near impossible, I'm telling you. Also, apparently Neil Breen's character has invented a force shield.
I've invented an invisible shield device using satellite lasers, which I can hide objects in a small area so that I can stay in a location for some time without being found. I disappear. I become invisible. The force shield will cause death if an intruder gets too close.
While climbing some rocks, he stumbles across some fan mail. Yes! Another broken laptop! This is just what I wanted. More stock footage, and now here's a random ass shot of a sleeping bag on the desert floor with somebody moving around inside of it. If you find yourself saying what the fuck a lot throughout this review, I wouldn't blame you for it, but just remember you are watching a Neil Breen film, so you're gonna be saying that a lot. Now it's time for a little origin story as we see Neil Breen and his supposed love interest when they were little kids playing on the playground together. All the while, it keeps cutting back between him and the adult version of her. And I don't know if this is supposed to represent him hallucinating, or if this is actually really happening, or if this is all in his brain, but we see them kissing and cuddling together, just out in this field, randomly in the middle of the desert. No explanation as to what this means, or why it's happening, or what it's leading up to, but hey, fuck it, just go with it. Then we cut to a shot of a car pulling up alongside Neil Breen's car. A figure steps out. We don't see his face. And then he just randomly walks up to Neil Breen's cowboy boots, which are sitting upright on the ground in front of his car. Casually kicks them over and then walks away. Now, this character, this man in black, as he's called, is a figure that is a reoccurring character in many of Neil's films. But we never get an explanation as to who he is or what his purpose is. It's just another thing that's thrown in just because.
I love being with you. Oh, jeez.
What the fuck was that? Did he just bust a nut or something? Okay, all jokes aside, this entire scene is just downright confusing and jarring. So, we see his fiance get shot in the back by a sniper, but then Neil grabs her body, holds her for a second, and reacts as if he's the one being shot. And then we just cut to this. And I know Neil likes to think of himself as this hot stud sex symbol that no woman can resist, but at this point it feels like he's just looking for any old excuse just to flash his bag and show his ass on screen. Next, Neil wakes up on the ground next to his car, which has "Help Me" written in blood on it. No idea what that has to do with anything that's been going on so far, but it obviously freaks him the fuck out because he scurries on out of there. But it's all good because he's got a good old assassination mission to take his mind off of it.
He will kill anyone, anywhere, to advance their terrorist goals. He is planning something very big. Bigger than 9/11 or any of the other larger catastrophes we caught in time after 9/11. The public wasn't even aware of. This is chemical biological, the worst kind.
That's nice, but who the fuck are you exactly?
The other basic reality of modern warfare is that no war can be won by air power alone. High technology has limitations to low technology. As advanced and stealthy as our modern weaponry may be, it can never defeat a nation's resolve to fight their war on the ground, hand to hand, by way of guerrilla warfare.
Alright, well, at least now we have a mission. I have no idea what it is or what it entails, but I guess we're progressing the plot a little bit. Next, we cut to a bunch of stock footage of people dancing at a nightclub, somebody doing flips, some establishing shots of Las Vegas that Neil totally did not film himself. I guess this is supposed to be building suspense by showing us all of these innocent people who are preoccupied with seeing all the sights of Las Vegas that are just completely unaware of the impending doom coming their way. But it's really hard to take any of this as a serious threat when I know for a fact that these people are in a completely different freaking movie.
I've received your directions. The GPS directions. I've got to prepare for the attack diversions. I've begun the actions in the other cities.
After some more establishing shots of the city, we cut back to the desert where Neil comes across a random old man just sitting underneath some rocks. And he doesn't think anything of this.
Old man, you don't look like a terrorist to me.
Yeah, no shit, Neil. He's probably mentally ill, if anything, and should not be out here. So maybe you could be a decent Samaritan and actually report him or get him to safety. But no, he just walks onward and goes about his business as if nothing happened. And the old man who just a few seconds earlier had literally no reaction to seeing another human out here in the desert now decides, once Neil has departed and started to walk away, to walk after him and follow him up these rocks. Along the way, he ends up losing his balance and falls, basically cracking his head open and essentially dying on the spot. After seeing this, Neil all of a sudden decides he actually gives a shit about the guy and goes down to help him. But it's too late, the old man bleeds out and dies on the spot. But at least Neil has the decency to bury him and throw him a little funeral.
I'm the one? I am the one.
He also finds a magic rock, which is very obviously just some fool's gold that he probably bought at a pawn shop. Also, during this funeral scene, we randomly cut to a shot of a bald eagle. Don't know what that has to do with anything, but sure, let's just go with it. Neil stares off into the sky, I guess going into some type of trance. We had another shot of the bald eagle and then a stock footage shot of an old man feeding some birds. I'm guessing this is supposed to be the same old man who just died, but it's very clearly not the same guy. Then Neil wakes up once again on the ground by his car with "Help me" written in blood again. I guess this is just a day in the life of Neil Breen.
Where are you? Where are you? Where are you?
Oh look, it's the ghosts of Neil's parents. Maybe they can help us find the plot of this movie. Alright, I guess not, because they just touch hands real quick and then walk away and we never see them again. Next, Neil takes a break from his busy schedule to visit a friend of his. He has dinner with their family, and here we get one of my favorite moments in the entire movie, on account of how nonsensical and just ridiculous it is. So it's revealed that his friend's daughter has brain cancer, and I guess the magical rock he got from the old man who cracked his head open and died is able to heal her and cure her of her cancer, and he very awkwardly reaches out and touches her head for like a full 10 seconds while the parents just watch and nobody says anything or thinks anything strange about this at all.
Our daughter Megan was just diagnosed with brain cancer.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. Thank you. No, thank you.
Next, Neil visits his dead girlfriend again before going to do some coke.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. No damage.
And the significance of that scene was... Neil goes to meet up with his fellow government agents, one of whom is totally not the friend that he just had dinner with, to find out what his next assignment is.
What do you have for me this time? Cryptography? Hacking into a banking system? Shutting down a power grid for a major city? Cutting off the water system for half the country? Hacking into the stock market? Closing down a bank? Fixing an election? It's all easy.
Of course it is, because when you're as awesome as Neil Breen, no job is too big. Even the other agent is like, man, you're a conceited motherfucker. Oh, and apparently he's also being followed and recorded, but that's okay because Neil uses his telepathic powers to shoot this woman in the head without even having a gun. After stealing a Rolls Royce from an elderly couple, Neil sets about his next quest, which is poisoning a couple of newlyweds.
Would you like some champagne?
If it'll get me through the rest of this movie, then hell yeah, I'll take some champagne. So literally seconds after taking a sip, the husband starts complaining that he doesn't feel good, and then he literally just keels over and drops dead on the spot. Neil just casually picks his body up and tosses it into the trunk, before going back to deal with the wife. And how does he go about doing this? Well, just take a look.
What happened? Where am I? And who are you?
We're in Las Vegas. Hey, last night we went to the club, danced a lot, drank a lot, laughed a lot, had sex out by the fountains. Then we went down to the strip and we got married. Hey, this is Las Vegas, baby.
Okay, forget Bill Cosby. I'm starting to get worried about Neil Breen and his intentions with his female actors. Next, Neil Breen gets a phone call telling him that he killed the wrong couple, and then he just hangs up and starts shouting at the woman to get out of the car. Thankfully, he's able to track down the right couple that he was supposed to kill, but uh-oh, it looks like they beat him to the job.
They committed suicide. A suicide pact. They knew what was coming.
And we're back in the desert, where we see Neil typing on about 3 laptops that are clearly not working, or at least aren't turned on, to some stock footage pilots that are in a completely different film. And this was the point in the movie where it had me questioning my sanity, because I don't know if this is supposed to be happening in real time, or if this entire movie is taking place inside of Neil Breen's head, and he's just been chilling in his car with his broken-ass laptops in the middle of the desert this entire time. Oh no! It was a prop skeleton underneath the sleeping bag the entire time! Who could have seen that coming? No, seriously, who could have? This movie makes about as much sense as people during COVID wearing masks while driving. After getting hit on by a hot blonde about half his age, because why not, Neil ends up hijacking this guy's car by sticking him in the neck with a needle and then putting a fake mustache on his face. Also, the woman that was just flirting with him apparently didn't witness any of this, because she just casually gets into her car and then drives off.
Great, Ferrari. Who's your friend?
Holy shit, it's him! It's him!
Put your guns away. I've tranquilized him. He's not going anywhere. Friends of his knows that he's with me. I'm a marked man now. Let's go.
Oh, this fucking movie. So next we cut to, I don't even know what this is. Some type of crack house, I don't know, where Neil Breen has a meeting with a bunch of drug dealers. Also, I had no idea there was a market for anthrax amongst street drug dealers, but apparently there is.
It broke open. Run! Killed him.
Next, Neil calls up his fellow agents to let them know that the job is done. On to the next nonsensical scene.
I've been awarded every medal. The Medal of Honor. The Medal for Meritorious Service. Defense Meritorious Service. Joint Service Achievement Award. Armed Forces Medal. Purple Heart. Heroic Meritorious Achievement.
Also, I was not aware that a veteran could be awarded every possible medal to ever have existed, but apparently they can. Then again, I'm not a badass genius like Neil Breen, so shows what I know. This next part is honestly just downright ridiculous and hilarious. So, Neil loses the magical rock, which supposedly cured his friend's daughter of brain cancer. He finds it in one of the many empty tuna cans he has stored in his trunk, and then he gets a phone call from his friend revealing to us that the daughter who had brain cancer ended up dying and succumbing to her cancer anyway. So that made the entire subplot of Neil Breen's character finding the magic rock and curing the little girl of cancer completely pointless. But that's kind of par for the course with Neil Breen, so can't say I'm terribly surprised.
I can't go on with this. I can't go on with this. I'm an American. I'm an American. I love this country.
So I guess all of this just causes Neil Breen to have some type of complete psychotic breakdown involving patriotism and his obligation to his country. I don't fucking know. And then he just runs off into the desert screaming. Honestly, I think he's just completely snapped at this point. I'd laugh, but it would almost be like making fun of someone that has a legit mental illness.
My country.
Honestly, I don't even think Neil knew he was being recorded at this point. And seeing this clip of him just completely losing his shit and running off into the desert screaming like a lunatic has me convinced that he originally had no plans of being a filmmaker whatsoever. This was just some crazy dude who lost his mind and went loony out in the middle of the desert, and somebody just happened to be out there with a camcorder, caught him during one of his episodes, and in order to avoid getting committed or baker-acted, he bribed them into making this into an actual film. And then the rest was history. As ludicrous as that explanation may sound, it's a lot more sensible than half the shit going on in this movie. Next, we see Neil planning some type of stakeout by the railroad tracks where we see some other criminals. And why the fuck do you have like 3 goddamn flip phones in your hand at one time, buddy? Also, I have no idea who any of these people are that we keep cutting to with these random reaction shots. But I'm sure the movie will answer that for us, right?
We must go ahead.
And keep trying to fool us with that stock footage, Neil. I'm sure you totally filmed all this footage completely on your own. Hell, knowing Neil, he probably just went to the Internet Archive and found a torrent of some old news footage.
Go to Code Red.
Go to Code Red.
Prepare to evacuate the hotels on the Strip.
Prepare to evacuate the hotels on the Las Vegas Strip.
Prepare to evacuate the hotels on the Strip.
Alright, we get it. You do not need to have 3 separate characters repeat the same line over and over again. Great, time to wrap this shit heap up. So Neil gets reunited with his dead girlfriend. I don't know how. I guess the mystical powers from the magic rock brought her back from the dead. I don't freaking know, guys. I gotta say, I mean, even for a Neil Breen movie, this plot is just next to impossible to follow. I mean, each sequence is borderline incoherent, as is this movie as a whole. I know, again, that kind of describes Neil Breen in a nutshell, but it's especially noticeable in this one. So the man in black shows up to literally do nothing and walks away. Neil smashes his already broken laptop with a boulder. Then he runs into his dead girlfriend again, who disappears before his very eyes. And then, out of nowhere, the younger version of himself materializes out of thin air, but I guess he's really there for real, because next we see him sitting in the passenger seat next to Neil Breen in his car, and then they drive off into the sunset. I do love how absolutely in shock this kid looks. Like, yeah, I would be pretty nervous if I was a child about being trapped in a car with this guy out in the middle of the desert with no other adults around. So obviously this movie's pretty god-awful, but where does it stack up in terms of Neil Breen's franchise? Honestly, pretty low. And I think the main reason is the movie's just really dull. It's poorly paced. I mean, half of the movie is just Neil Breen wandering around in the desert, stock footage, flashbacks of him with his dead girlfriend, all while some spiritual angelic music plays. It's not paced well at all, and while his films in general, yes, are pretty awful, they're usually at least entertaining in how badly acted, edited, directed, and incoherent they are. This one is just a big, gigantic snooze fest, though. I honestly was struggling to get through this recording just because of how dull and boring this movie was. The movie does have its moments. I mean, there are a handful of really unintentionally hilarious scenes. I already mentioned Neil moaning while grabbing his dead fiance's corpse in his hands after she gets shot, along with him completely losing his shit out in the desert. So this movie is not without its laughs and its better moments, but overall it's just pretty lifeless. Just like Neil Breen's eyes. But, you know, I'll give credit where credit is due. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I admire the hell out of this guy's ambition and his persistence. We can rip on him all we want, say how terrible his movies are, and trust me, they are indeed pretty terrible. But there's something noble and admirable about the fact that he just keeps on pumping out these films, no matter how much people laugh at them or say that they suck. So, for any aspiring filmmakers out there, if you're having trouble, keeping your confidence, if things just aren't working out for you so far, just look at Neil Breen and use this man and this film as inspiration, because if a movie like this can exist, so can yours. Wow. Well, that was something. Anyway, hopefully you guys still have all your brain cells left intact. If not, don't say I didn't warn you. Anyway, this has been Mark, aka the Movie Buffer. Ciao for now.